everyone, let's understand what is component and in real-time example. So basically component is the building block of Angular application, and one or more components working together and rendering onto the web browser will become a web page. So this is a little bit tricky to understand. So let's understand a component with a real-time example. Let me create a project. So now the project is created. Let's just start the application and see. So now the application started. Let's just check whether the application is up and running. Now you see Angular 17 application started. Let's try to create the component and understand the component in a easy format, and I will write the simple component. So to create a component, we have to use ng generate component. I'll just create it like a child component. Now that we got the component, if you see, the component is created under this app folder, and this is a child component. Now what we will do is, since we have this complete content, let's get rid of all these things. Now this whole page is empty. Let's just add a navigation bar. Let's just check. So this is the navigation bar right now that we got. So let it be. Let's try to align, add some styles. We'll push the text to the center. Sorry. We'll push the navigation bar content to the center. Now we got the content to the center. Let's just increase the size of the text. Also we'll just add a HR. It will just add a line here. Okay, now let's check the child component, the one that we created. This is child component. So this is how it will be. If you see the component TS file, okay, this is a spec file. If you see the component TS, the selector name is app child. So that is the reason I used app child here. Right now there is nothing. So to pass the, for suppose, let's just keep a child string like, okay, let's first check whether the child is rendered. So now the child is rendered in the parent component. How you see parent and child is, if you just inspect and see, so app route, this is a pager parent component, and just to check, if you see, this is a parent component. Within the parent component we added this child component. Okay, so that's why under the app route you are seeing child component. It is within the app route. Okay, now what we will do is, we'll just get rid of this one and we'll say hello. We'll add the name. I'll just pass the name to this child. We'll say okay. Let's just put this in H2 just to see it better. Now we need to pass this name from the parent component. Okay, so to pass the parent component a child, so this is how you should pass the name, the value directly. You can give the value here like this, but you need to get hold of this name value in the child TypeScript class. So to get hold of the input parameter that is coming from parent, this is how you should use. Okay, now we are passing a parameter name to the child. So to get hold of the value that is coming from the parent, you should use @input, and by default it is empty, but since we are passing this value to the name, so when we render this child component, it will get hold of that whatever the value that is passed, and it will replace in this particular place. Okay, so now let's check. Okay, there is some issue. Let's see. Okay, there is something wrong. Okay, let's check what is wrong. So this is correct. This is correct. Okay, let's see how we are passing. Okay, what we will do is, okay, there is one single quote is missing. Now it should come. Okay, yeah. Now if you see this name that is passed from the parent, but it is the string that is rendered from child. Let's check. So if you see, this is a child component and this is the parent component. So if you select the child component, it is selecting the exact child component. So this is child and the whole parent is here. So this is how we should pass the value from the parent, which is app component, to the child, app child. Now that we passed a single string, okay, let's try to pass multiple values. How we can pass array of values to the child. Okay, to pass either directly we can put it here, but it's not going to look good. So what we will do is we'll name it like names list and we'll pass it from this component class. Okay, how we can pass array, let's say Shiva Kumar. So we have two values now. We need to maybe append first name and last name and show it in the child component. Now it is the array, so it will get the array of values, and let's go to the child component. Now it's not going to be single string. Okay, so we have to set it like array, and now let's change it to names list. Okay, let's go to the parent and we'll change the name. It is not just a single name. So now let's change it to names list. We'll get hold of this names list here and we'll just say any type, or you can directly give string since it is string. Okay, let's just keep it any for now. Now that we got list, we cannot directly give it like this. Okay, let's just check how this is going to behave. It is working, but still if we have more number of people, okay, right now this is working. We passed a couple of values. We'll try to pass a different type of thing, okay, different type of array. So what we will do is, in the parent component we'll give a object array. We'll say first name and last name. Now that this is the object array, let's see what is happening. Now you see, since it is object, it is not showing the values. So what we need to do is to display the object array. This is not going to work. So for that we have to use ngFor. Okay. This names list, and now that we get each name, now we can simply say name dot first name. We will give a comma and a name dot last name. Okay, now you see the object is parsed and we showed this, and let's see how we can pass more number of values. Now we can simply say let's see how this is going to behave now. Now you see it is repeated twice for two values. Why? Because if you see the child component, this we are iterating and printing this whole h2 content twice because of the for loop. We have two records. Okay, so now this is how we can pass the single string value and a list of values in the array and list of objects from parent to child. The major important thing is @input selector, and based on the type of the value that you are giving, you have to say whether it is a string or array. And from the parent, when you go to the parent class, this is how you should pass the values to the child. Thank you. See you in the next video. So now that we looked at how we can pass the data from parent to the child, so now let's look at how we can pass the data from child to the parent. Okay, right now we have a child which is app child, and the app component is the parent component. So let's pass the data from child component to the parent component now. Okay, so what we can do is, let's add a button. And we'll add a click event. So what we will call this is emit value to parent. Okay, and so we should have something over here in the parent child class. For this particular function, when we click that button, let's check whether we got the button, or we have the button but we don't have anything. Okay, let's give a name, emit value to parent. Okay, now you see this is the button. When we click it, it should send the value to the parent. Okay, so now that we got the function, okay, now this is a function. So when we click this one, first thing, to send a value, so to get the value from the parent to child, we used @input, right? Now to send the value from child to parent, we need to use output, @output, and you can say, since we are performing some action and sending the value to the parent, so we'll call it as a event emit or some name. This name can be anything we can use, and new event emitter. We have to use event emitter to send the value to the parent, and we'll just simply send a string value to the parent. And let's import this output. So now within this, when we click that button, so this dot event emitter dot emit is a function which will send the value to the parent. So what we will send is just simply say okay, this message will send it to the parent. To get hold of this in the parent, what we need to do is, we need to, for this app child, this is a child, right? It should come through the child to the parent. So for that reason, we need to add an event. So this event name should be same as this one. Okay, otherwise it won't emit the value to the parent. So when this one is triggered, we'll handle in this particular parent. So since we are sending a value to the parent, we must use $event. So this event will get hold of the value. Okay, once we got the value, we need to print it to the parent, right? So for that, within the parent component, we should write this function, and it will get the event that is passed, which is of string. And now we can print this one. So initially we will just calling it as a message from parent. Okay, so we'll call it as a message. I'll just simply say it is empty, and this dot message equal to whatever the value that came from child, and we'll try to print this one in the parent component. Let's print it here, and we'll just say h1 just to highlight it. Let's see. Okay, capital string and small string. Let's check. This is a small string. Let's format it. It is a small string. Okay, it is a capital string, so that's why it is throwing error. Let's make them same string. Okay, now when I click this is the child. This value should come to the parent. Right now it is not visible. When I click it, if you see, this value came from child. Okay, so if you see this particular value, it is in child component. Okay, this value, when I click this button, what is happening? When I click this button in the child, we are calling this particular function. Within this event emitter dot emit is which is sending the value out. It is pushing. Okay, whoever is subscribed to this event emitter, by default they'll get the value. Okay, who is subscribed to this event? Let's see. In the parent component, this is the parent component, and in this parent component, this is where this is where we are getting hold of that event. So we are getting hold of this event and we are calling this particular function and passing that event to this. So since we are passing this event to this, and it is here, and it will get hold of the event which is string value, and we are assigning this value to a message field, and we are using this message field to print on this particular parent component. This is how you can pass a value from a child component to the parent component. Okay, now let's see how we can pass a list of values from the child to the parent. Okay, now that when we click this one, what we will do is, instead of emitting single value, we will emit an array of values. Okay, let's say this is one value, this is second value, okay. So now that we named it as string, that's why it is not taking array. Now what we can do is, we can say this string of array. What we'll do is, we will simply say any value you can pass. Okay, we will pass this array to the parent. Now since we are passing two values, let's see how this is behaving. Okay, now we pass two values because it is just a string, it is directly printed with a message. Let's change this to pass an object kind of a thing. Okay, so now we'll say first name, last name. Now we are passing an object. Since we said any, it will accept, but in the child component, in the parent component, if you see, it will show it like an object. So we need to pass this object in the parent. So now that we go to the parent class, okay, this event, whatever the event that we, so this will, sorry, so now this handle event, this will get the object. Okay, let's put it side by side. Okay, now that we got the object here, okay, within this parent component, since this is the object, what we can do is, we can simply say event dot first name comma event dot last name. Okay, still it is throwing does not exist on a string. So this is a string that we said. Instead we'll change it to any. Now it will accept because it is not a string that we are passing from child. If you see here, we are passing an object array. Okay, let's pass the object, simple object first, then we'll pass the array. Now we are simply passing one single object. Okay, one single object. So this is the object, first name and last name we took those first name and last name out. Now you see it is printed first name and last name. Now let's check how we can pass array of objects. Now that we just passed single object, in this let's pass the array of objects. Okay, so this will be array. We'll pass one more object. John Doe is the second record. Now to get hold of this particular array of objects, it will be the same process, but overall when we receive it in the parent, this event is array. Now it's not a single field, it will fail. If you see, it is undefined. Okay, now what we should do is we should take this array. Okay, the event is array. So since this is array, we can directly set this array here. Okay, and we take this message. Go here, instead of, we cannot print it like this. Instead, again we can go for loop. Name of message let's say name dot first name and name dot last name, and it will be printed twice because array has multiple records. First name does not exist on a type string. Okay, let's check what is it. Okay, we named this one as a string, that's why it is failing. We'll say it is array. Okay, now you see we passed the first object and second object unprinted. So this is how you can share the data from child component to the parent component. Thank you. See you in the next video.